Hey, welcome everybody. This is John Paul Maducha, Dr. Speed Selling. This is Raging Verbalist number 118. And today's topic is one of those kind of more cerebral topics. So you're going to have to follow along with me. There won't be a test later, except life is always a test. For those of you who are just joining for the first time, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. Also go to Position to Win book, Facebook group, positiontowinbook.com, all of those things. But as always, to make our day a little bit brighter, a little bit happier, we're going to bring in the lovely Sandra. Sandra, how you doing today?
I am all right. How about yourself?
Doing well. For those who don't know, she is playing through the frigid Omaha winter right now. So all of you send warm thoughts to her, even just now. Just send warm thoughts to you. So here's how it works. Sandra's going to ask me a series of questions. I will divine the answers and come up with various pithy things to say and other stuff and all of that. And Sandra, what is our topic today? What are we talking about?
All right. So we're talking about the Great Resignation. So what do you think about this Great Resignation thing that's going on?
Well, it's kind of interesting that people feel, I guess, either dislocated because of the pandemic enough that now that things are supposedly kind of getting back to normal, that everybody is saying, well, take this job and shove it. It's not a country and western song. It seems to be a trend, and we're going to dive in deep into that. I think that part of it is the fact that there's a lot of people who were holding their breath and they're keeping whatever they had during the pandemic, and now that it's over, they're just saying, okay, I'm going to move on. I'm going to go and go to another place. And in fact, a Texas A&M University professor coined the phrase. Andy Klotz, Klotz. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, Anthony, or not, but hey, he coined it, and it became a thing. So let's go through some of the biggest and most juicy details. So here's some key takeaways. So it just may be that there's the sheer number of job openings. So if you're looking out there, there's lots and lots and lots of jobs, and there aren't people taking those jobs. So therefore, people feel secure and say, okay, I'm going to go and leave my current job. What could I lose? I'm going to go find something better. So I'm going to go do that. Also, industries hit hard by the pandemic, hotel, food service, leisure, hospitality, they've had the most job openings. I have been to so many restaurants, hotels, because I'm back traveling again, road warrior, and there's always a limited staff, and it's amazing. This is shut down because of limited staff. That shut down because there's a limited staff. So there's lots of that going on, and I think that the people are like going, I don't know if I want to take that gig. And the third thing is that people have had this contemplative time, maybe we could call it that maybe they're going to think about a different type of work, that they weren't just kind of stuck in this rut, that, hey, when they're sitting at home, maybe they're doing something other than just watching Netflix or playing video games or doing something, and they were actually thinking about it. I kind of question that one a little bit because, having coached lots of people in my career, I can tell you that, usually people don't get clarity from sitting around on their rear end. They get clarity from, they have a burr under their saddle. They have, rock in their shoes, something that drives it. But I think that it was a chance because people sat there and said, hey, look, I made it through this. I got a gig job, or I did this little side hustle, or I did something like this, and I made it through. So maybe I just don't need that regular grind of a job, and I can do some other things. So I think those are the key takeaways. And I think this is what's going on out there. And people have been out there dumping their job left and right. So big numbers.
So is it unprecedented to have so many people just up and quit?
Well, in some ways, the Great Resignation, first couple precursors, I think. Again, this is going to be one of those more cerebral for all of you out there. So there's this thing called job mobility. And this society that we live in, if you're living in the US, we have a lot of job mobility. Myself, I'm a perfect example of that. I came back from Vegas, started working for my father, started doing, working in office products, got a job in technology, whisked my way away from Colorado to California. That's called job mobility. And in fact, in the 60s and 70s, in through the 80s, there was a lot of job mobility. Now, nobody was really tracking it. And if they were tracking it, the only people who were interested in, were people with, intellectuals, demographers, statisticians. Nobody was talking about this. This wasn't, if you put this on the front page of anything or put it as a headline, people are going to go like, well, what are you talking about? Well, this doesn't make much sense because they can't see it around them. But now, because of the fact that everyone sees this other economy, and it's driven by high tech, right? People have met Uber drivers, people have met all kinds of other people. People have annoying notifications on their phone like that. But everybody just has all of these little things that they start to see around them. So it becomes much more of a thing. But we have not seen in the last dozen years, especially after the Great Recession, people didn't move around as much. So now this is a kind of a new phase of this. So I would say it's come and gone, and now it's here again. But now we're watching it, we're measuring it. Too bad we can't bet on it. Some point in time we'll be able to, as crazy as the world is getting, we'll be able to bet on everything. So you could bet on how many people resigned last week, and go on, Jimmy, resign. I've got to win that bet. So, but yeah, there's a lot of people. 4.3 million people in December, resigned. It's a great resignation. But really, the true story is that 4.5 million people resigned in November, Thanksgiving month. So that's a lot of people at any one point in time. But I think that this is it is not totally unprecedented, but it is now absolutely being looked at, and people are talking about it and reporting on it. So I think that's what we've got going on right now.
And what are the reasons why we're seeing so many people resigning?
So people who aren't resigning, the guys at MIT, or the men and women at MIT, or the whatever they figure out whoever they are, did a study, and they started looking around and saying, okay, why are people resigning? Now, this is an MIT study. It may not reflect my personal belief. It may not reflect Sandra's personal belief. It may not even reflect your personal belief, but they did a little study, and they said, so what are they? Let's go comb through all this data. Notice that, they're using this as a way to keep their jobs, but they said, okay, why are these people resigning? And they came up with 5, the big 5. Number one that they came up with is toxic culture. Ooh, toxic culture. And toxic culture was the much more of a predictor, they said, than anything else. Now, all I can tell you is that people who have this in their head, and I'm not saying that it is incorrect, they have it, or I'm not disagreeing they have it in their head. I'm just saying you got to be a little kooky to make this your reason. Because if this is the hill that you want to die on, then okay, I got it. But what they did was they found out that, all right, that the main things are, failure to promote diversity. Well, let me share something with you out there. Businesses are designed to be profitable. If you want to have as much diversity as you want, go start your own business, call it Diversity Inc., and go do that. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have diversity. I mean, I have lots of different people who've worked for me over the years. I've broken lots of different, barriers, if you will. I didn't break a barrier. I hired people because they were good people. So that's one of them. Equality, equity. Now, if you want equity, buy shares in a company. If you want equity, go out there and put some dough on the table. That's how you get equity. If you think otherwise, you're kidding yourself. And then that workers are feeling disrespected and not included. Now, this comes from the rampant crazy, and I mean rampant crazy in my mind, of where everybody thinks that their opinion is worth a shit. Okay. And I'm going to tell you that that's a cool idea. But you know what? I don't want everybody to get around in a circle and share their thoughts and feelings and go through and boo-hoo, boo-hoo, boo-hoo. If you know something, then you should have a say in it. If you don't know it, then who are you to waste our time going through whatever crazy is in your head? I know that flies against it, but that's the number one thing. Number 2 is job insecurity and reorganization. Well, I can tell you that there's a lot of ossified, go look it up, ossified companies that have not gone through the reorganization they need to. Now, does it mean that people are going to get fairness and goodness out of this stuff? Answer is no, because business has never gone through this exact situation. So we're going to see a lot of dislocation, lots of things going on. So people, what they do is they bail before they fail. Before they get their ass fired, they're out the door. Okay. Number 3 is high levels of innovation. There are a level of workers, a level of people who see organizations that are developing innovation in technology, innovation in what they're doing, and they get a little bit nervous and they go, wait a second. Now this, because the innovation means you're going to have to work harder. Most people want to have comfortable shoes and comfortable, metaphorically, where the longer they do it, the less pressure they're going to be under. Here again, going to tell you, we're in a global environment. The pressure that you're feeling today is only going to go in one direction. It has only gone in one direction for the last 100 years. If you don't like that, if you ever believed in the lull in the storm, then you are being delusional or just a little bit high or something, because it's going to keep happening. Number 4 is failure to recognize performance. This has been around forever. I mean, I got a whole list of crappy, terrible, bad bosses who never recognized my performance. Now, by the way, this ties back into the culture that we have today, in which so many people of a certain age bracket, and yes, I'm saying it from my standpoint, but I've been doing business for decades. This isn't new, except that now, since everybody is used to getting a participation trophy, getting a little ribbon, getting a little medal, getting a little pat on the head, getting the, my kid is number 34 at the Smiley School bumper sticker or whatever the hell that is, all of those people, I'm so proud of Billy C. And I'm not talking about vitamin C. I'm not talking about his ability to have optical aptitude. I'm talking about he only got a frickin' C. Okay. There you go. And then number 5 is people are pissed off about a poor response to COVID. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense to me. So those are the 5 reasons that the smarties at MIT found. Again, I don't refute any of their findings. I just question that the people behind them, I'm talking about the individuals who, these are the whiners who said, this is why I'm resigning. Okay, got it. Now, that just tells me that you probably don't understand what's really going on. Okay, so what's next?
All right. How does this trend affect being successful?
Well, here's the reality, is that if you're sitting there and you are one of those in the Great Resignation, because you are going to show your righteous indignation and you're going to show the world and you're going to stand out there, is that what I want you to do, I have an exercise for all of you, is to go outside and look up to the sky and raise your fists above and just say, damn it, I'm not happy with this universe. Align your shit and recognize me. Make sure that you tell me all these things. And go out there and do that till you feel better, get tired, or, I don't know, your mom calls you in for dinner. But if you actually want to think about it, what you got to do is you got to think about how this is, what is your career path? Every single one of us has a career path. If you're waiting for somebody to define that, if you're waiting for somebody to validate your ticket, if you're waiting for somebody to tell you what trajectory you should take, I got bad news for you. That isn't how the world really works. How the world works is that you figure out what you want to do. Now, there are always obstacles. See, if I woke up today and said, you know what, I want to be a world-class marathon runner. And then I look at myself in the mirror and I go, hey, handsome. And I go, I want to be a world-class marathon runner. I'm going to have to get in a hell of a lot better shape than I'm in now and get my knees fixed and. Not saying that I couldn't get better at it. But in your career, you have to decide what you want to do, and you have to go out and go after that. Now, what I did, of course, is I decided that I needed to find a way to position myself better, which gets me to a very important topic, one that's near and dear to me, one that in fact may help you if you're sitting there kind of confused, not quite sure what you're going to do. And that is, I have a solution for you. I'm not coming here just to bitch you out. I'm going to give you a solution. Go pick up this book. Most businesses fail in the first 5 minutes. It just takes them 3 to 5 years to realize it, position to win. If you think that this is just a book about business, that's why you should really read the book. The book is about business, but it's also about this very fundamental concept called positioning. If you do not position yourself correctly, there is no way, no how you're going to be successful in life. Every single person who's successful is positioned. Everybody is positioned, whether you want to be positioned or not. Now, you could be the person who's eating M&Ms and drinking orange soda and playing a video game, which if you can make a living doing that, have at it. I'm all for it. But if that's not what you need to do, what you need to do is sit down and really get serious about what your career is. So how do you get one of these gems? How do you find out about this? So you can go to positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com, positiontowinbook.com. If you go there and you buy it directly from us, you can get an autographed copy from me and tell me what you want to say. Yeah, even if you have profanity, I'll probably write it down. Also, you can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble Books A Million. Also, wherever books are sold, you can order it. And you can get a physical copy. You can also get a digital copy from Amazon, Barnes & Noble Nook, and Apple iBooks. Also, we have another book out, which is called Remote Work for a Better World. We are all living in a remote world, whether you want to believe it or not. And therefore, knowing how to do this stuff better makes you more marketable, makes you more money. Now, having said that, all I can tell you is you should, if you want some freebies, go to positiontowinbook.com. Also, you can join the Facebook group, Position to Win Book, and ask some questions, put some things up there, and we will respond. Okay. What is next, Sandra?
All right. So is this a realignment of priorities globally?
Well, it turns out that even though it is most prevalent in the US and other places, but in the US, is that it turns out that there is, in fact, a bit of a global drive to this. And we understand that because somebody who had a traditionally not such a good job, not such a good gig, can now go to one of the various job sites and get connected. By the way, this is why I say to all of you who are sitting here fat, dumb, and happy in the Western world is realize that there are people who are coming for your gig. We used to say coming for your job, but it's not a job anymore. It's coming for your gig. And they're going to show up and they're going to take it away from you. And then you're going to have to go figure out what you're going to really want to do. So is it a global trend? Yes. And it seems to be driving all over the place because, of course, what used to be much more difficult to do is much easier. The internet is it gives you more accessibility to more resources than ever before. Now, this is going to be a trend that will exacerbate over time. That means get worse for those who don't understand that. So you have to figure out what you're going to do. But it is going on globally. And in fact, places like Western Europe, where you have this, they call it a strong safety net. I call it a hammock. There's been less disruption because why would you go anywhere else when you got this really cushy job? Eventually, that's going to crap out and crash and burn. I'm going to tell you, I believe that's going to really happen because there is no way that you can be the high price spread and make it through. Also, what you found is that since there's such a lack of skilled workers in all of these various places, they're going to have to do something to backfill those jobs and find a way to get that done. Now, this also means that millions of people, because of the pandemic, lost their job globally. And I'm talking about food service, hospitality, a variety of other things. And those people are now seriously underemployed. And in those instances, we're going to have to see how the economy globally responds. And hopefully we actually see where that happens. So yes. And then there's all kinds of demographic trends we could spend lots of time talking about, but the realignment is happening globally.
So are there other economic forces that could alter this trend?
Well, I think what's going on is that you have a lot of individuals, a lot of people who are in their, in their 30s to their 40s, who are now sitting there. They've been in the workforce. Maybe they've bounced around a little bit. You know, there's no, by the way, there's very little penalty in today's world from being what at one point in time was a label that people put on me. John, you're a job hopper. Well, really what I was is I was the guy on the flying trapeze, because every single job I went to was a better job, more pay for the job, and I kept moving it along. No one ever put such a chunk of dough on the table that I stayed and stayed and stayed. But it's really, you know, employees between 30 and 45 have had the greatest increase in resignation, because I think what they're seeing is that, you know what, maybe it is time to trade up. Maybe it is trying to do that. So I think that the economic forces, if we see interest rates go up significantly, inflation take hold, if we see an unsettling geopolitical situation, and as we're recording this, yes, we're seeing some of that. All of those could be factors that could alter this trend and make people feel less secure. When everybody knows that you can just go get an app, click a button, have a gig, get paid. There's no fuss, no muss, no hurries. Also, be advised that we're going to probably see the big old government come in and try to regulate a bunch of these things, because, you know, a fluid, self-determined population is much harder to control and much harder to put your thumb on. So I think that those are some of the things that we're going to see happen.
And what is your advice to those who are believers in the Great Resignation?
Well, I think that if you're doing it for all the right reasons, and I think that some of the reasons that the MIT team found, I think, are really the bad reasons. But if you're doing it because you're going to improve your career, improve your, change your trajectory, become more successful. For those of you who say, John, I don't know if money is the end all be all. Well, I'm going to tell you that having dough and having those options that money brings is an important thing. So before you go jumping off of that and saying, I'm going to be doing something else, make sure that you figured out how you're going to cover your nut, cover your whatever you got to do. So my advice to anybody is know why you're doing it. Know why you're going to go out there and do that. And also, in some ways, I'm very sympathetic to this trend, and here's why. When I first got a job in high tech, the first thing I did was I said, because again, of positioning and doing what is called pivoting, is I said, who would be the most likely company that I was working with as a manufacturer's rep that would potentially hire me? Where could I go to get to that next step up, that next rung of the ladder? Where could I move to? And what I did was I ended up making a couple of hops, and now I'm in California. Now, even though I was successful in California, even though I had just landed, and I was successful really after about 90 days, which was faster than anybody thought I was going to be, what I did was every quarter, I made sure that I went out and interviewed for jobs. And I interviewed for jobs, and I interviewed for jobs, interviewed for jobs. Now, I didn't have a lot of intention of taking those jobs, but what I wanted to do is we were talking about being a marathon runner. I wanted to be in shape to do interviews. I want to be in shape to be able to talk to people and make sure that I knew what was going on out there. So when the guys at Data Systems Design, all now long gone, cut my commissions by 50%, which was not cool, which meant that all the work that I had done that first year to set things up for the next year, I was going to see a dramatic cut in the income I had. And when the VP of sales, Ed, his real name, I won't give his last name, said, well, John, looking at your resume, you're lucky to even have a job. And I went out and I got four job offers. And I took the one that I thought was best. Now, the point of it isn't that I was proving Ed wrong. I wasn't doing that. I was making a cold, calculated decision. And that decision was, how do I protect my position and protect myself? So if you have a mindset that you want to move on, that you want to change, make sure that you do all of the right things and find as many gigs, find as many options, find as many opportunities as you can. Take the best ones that you can take. Now, it may not work out, but what you want to do is, again, I kept doing that every quarter, all during the time that I worked for other people. I kept interviewing for gigs and jobs and all of that. And the reason for it is that you want to make sure that you're ready and in shape. I suspect that a lot of people who are leaving their companies during the Great Recession are doing it not for the right reasons. But I can tell you that since there is a decided lack of skilled people in all of these roles, you getting out there and getting a new gig is highly likely if, in fact, you can tune yourself up. So use this time during the Great Recession and make sure that you go out and you get the best gig you possibly can.
And how does one profit from such a seismic shift?
I think how you profit from it is that you realistically know who you are, what you're capable of, find out what your interests are, and from the personal side, really build a dynamite profile of who you are and what you're capable of so you can present that and practice that. Build a pitch, build a deck if you need to. This is who, I'm Joe Spadot, and this is who I am, or I'm Sally Smith, and this is what I'm capable of. And go out there and show people, exemplify your talents. Most of the time, and I've interviewed lots of people as a turnaround specialist, I've probably fired more people than you're going to meet in your life. And I can tell you that, first off, almost every person I fired was shocked and surprised I fired them. Second thing is that most of the people, because I had to hire new people to replace them, and most of them came to me unprepared, unaware, and incapable of actually getting the job. So how you can profit from it is to know that you are in a race, you're in a heated race to go out there and beat all of those who are out there in front of you. If you do that, I think you're going to make that work to your advantage. Now, flipping to the other side, if you're a business owner, if you're an employer, if you're somebody who's a manager trying to hire people, this speaks to the reality that you should be doing one thing. Now, for those of you who know me, of course, as Dr. Speed Selling, the ABC of selling is always be closing. Well, there's another one that's called always be recruiting, ABR. You should always be recruiting, should always be looking for somebody new, should always be looking to add to your talent pool. Most of the time, when I work with clients, is that they do not have a couple of things. They do not have a continuous recruiting program, and they don't have a continuous retention program. If you're seeing a lot of people bleeding out from your company and you don't know why, you're going to have to figure out how to build a retention. So it's the double R's. It's recruiting and retention, and making sure that you create the right environment that gets people excited to get up every day and move things along. Now, having said that, I'm going to tell you that the grim reality of life is that what you have to do is there's lots of things that have to get done. Somebody always has to do the job that somebody else doesn't want to do. The reality of it is to suck it up, find a way to make that work for you, and become that person who delivers more than they need to. I have had lots of experience working with people who were doing just enough to get by. What you want to be is that person who always does not what you need to get by, not what you hope they will catch you sneaking away and getting by, but you want to be that person who delivers 100%, 110%, whatever percentage you can deliver, and go over the top. So therefore you become indispensable instead of disposable. And if you do that, that's how you can take advantage of the Great Resignation. Opportunities abound. They always have. Today, it's probably easier than ever before. So wake up and decide that today is the day that you're going to go out there and make it happen and see what you can accomplish. If that sounds like something you want to do, go check out my website, positiontowinbook.com. There's lots of freebies over there. Learn how to position yourself before you go out there and try to get the next gig, side hustle, or job. And with that, I'm John Paul Mendoza. And for the lovely Sandra, this has been the Raging Verbalist number 118.